Empress Goddess, the gorgeous goat, your host with the most. I hope you're well today. Coming back at you one more again with another informative video. The psychology of nightmares. Let's get in there.
Why do we have bad dreams? Is there any psychological meaning behind them? Nightmares are the source of much of the horror we see in stories, myths, movies, and games. They are an encounter with the dark side of the unconscious, which often includes facing some of the most painful aspects of who we are. And one does not know what that part of oneself is until one confronts it. Nightmares are different from other dreams, both in quantity and in quality. They are relatively infrequent for most dreamers, but their intensity and vividness cause such distress that unlike most dreams, we have difficulty forgetting about them. They arouse fear, anxiety, agony, embarrassment, melancholy, or great displeasure. The word nightmare is also used figuratively to describe any difficult or terrifying situation. Some nightmares are so memorable that they color the experience of our lives for years, or, in fact, stay with us for a lifetime. Many psychiatrists have focused on the pathology of nightmares, which are generally considered negative psychological events that torment us and disrupt factors such as stressful life situations.
Okay. And now we're going to try it like this here and see what's going on.
Situations or traumatic memories. The focus is on mitigating their frequency or completely eliminating them through medication. However, the problem is that the emphasis is put on the pathological causes of nightmares, and there's no concern about the purpose of them. Nightmares occur for a reason. If one focuses on pathology rather than on the symbolic meaning of a nightmare, a valuable opportunity is lost. Nightmares are the most substantial and vitally important dreams, and are of therapeutic value. They wake us up with a cry, as if all our repressed content forms a bubble, which expands until it bursts one night, and we experience a nightmare. This build-up of tension in the unconscious can potentially be expressed in prior dreams. There's something that wants to be brought into consciousness. After waking up from a bad dream, we are forced to acknowledge our unconscious conflicts, but we tend to forget about them and carry on daily lives, unaware of the psychological damage we do to ourselves. Nightmares are the shock therapy nature uses on us when we are too unaware of some psychological danger. They shock us out of deep unconscious sleepiness about some dangerous situation, as if the unconscious says, "Look here, this problem is urgent." The psyche tells us to wake up and face what we have neglected. The majority of nightmares represent opportunities for personal healing through much-needed emotional release. There are typical dream motifs related to nightmares or anxiety dreams, such as falling down, showing up late or unprepared for a presentation or an exam, missing a flight or forgetting about one's luggage, going about with insufficient clothing, losing one's teeth, feeling trapped, unable to move or make any noise, injury or illness, encountering frightening monsters or natural disasters, etc. These motifs are very common, but by no means sufficient to confirm the existence of any system in the organization of a dream. One of the first nightmares can be traced back to Lilith, whose name is Hebrew for night monster or night hag. According to Jewish legend, Adam, before he knew Eve, had a demon wife called Lilith. She disobeyed Adam, believing that as they were both created from dust, she was his equal. Lilith was banished from the Garden of Eden and in revenge change into a nightmare or lamia, nocturnal spectre. She became known as a dangerous and promiscuous demoness of the night. A legend of later origin maintains that the snake in the Garden of Eden was Lilith, associating her with the devil. Following Adam and Eve's encounter with the tree and the serpent, Adam refrained from, among other things, sexual intercourse as a form of penance. During this time, Lilith had intercourse with Adam, giving birth to a horde of demons that flit about the world. Thus began Lilith's reign. Stories of Lilith can be traced back to ancient Mesopotamia, such as in the poem The Epic of Gilgamesh, in which there isn't just one such figure, but various of such female demons who haunt pregnant women, kidnap newborn infants, and engage in wild intercourse with men after pinning them down. Lilith is the origin of the succubus, an evil female spirit thought to have sexual intercourse with sleeping men. The incubus is the masculine counterpart. The word mare in nightmare comes not from a female horse, but is rather an Anglo-Saxon term for a goblin, old hag, fiend, or demon that sits on people's chests, causing them to have bad dreams. In Old Norse it is known as Mara. The prefix night was added to emphasize that these creatures visited night. In Danish and Norwegian, nightmare can be translated as mareride, while in Swedish it is mare-dream. This phenomenon has been reported from antiquity to modernity across the world. Today it is known as sleep paralysis, which is different from a nightmare insofar as it occurs while still being conscious, but unable to move or speak. This can happen as you're waking up or falling asleep. People experience auditory and visual hallucinations and feel intense terror and anxiety. The person sees threatening entities and feel pressure on their chests, making it difficult to breathe, causing suffocation. In the Norse Inlinga saga from the 13th century, King Vanlandi was a great warrior who traveled far over the land. He promised his wife to come back after 3 winters, but he came not for 10 winters. His wife hired a sorceress to cast a spell to have him come back or be killed. The king longed to go back with his wife, but his friends and advisors forbade it, saying it was the product of witchcraft. Then he became sleepy and said that the Mara was treading on him. When the man held the king's head, it trod on his legs, so that they were almost broken. Then the man seized his feet, and the Mara pressed down on the king's head until he died. In Germany, this malicious entity is most often called an elf, a word that is etymologically related to elf. In folklore, elves and mares enter into one's room in the night to induce a nightmare on the dreamer. Even though windows and doors may be tightly closed and locked, they can still get in through the smallest holes, such as a keyhole, which they seek out with special pleasure. In many stories, a man is ridden by Mara every night and is tormented by it. One morning he decides to drill a hole through the door, plug shut all the cracks, and make a stick that fit exactly into the hole in the door. He knew that Maras could get in through even a very small hole, but not out again if all the openings were plugged shut. Then he asked a good friend to sleep with him, and that when he moans, that he should put the stick in the hole, because he wanted to capture the Mara. In the morning, there was a beautiful naked woman in the room. The man, however, did not know that if you catch a Mara, you cannot get rid of her, and so he had to marry her. They had children and lived together quite happily. One day, the man told her about the hole she came in from and removed the stick. She immediately flew out through the hole and was never seen again. There are also several nightmare charms, prayers, or spells used to ward off mares. The use of symbols for protection in sleep are a common thread seen throughout history. In Japanese mythology, the Baku or Dream Eater is a spirit which is said to devour nightmares. It is depicted as a chimera, a mythological beast comprised of a variety of parts from other animals. After waking up from a nightmare, the person would summon Baku for protection by crying, "Devour, O Baku, devour my evil dream." One would also summon it prior to falling asleep at night to avoid nightmares. However, the person had to be cautious. Should a Baku remain hungry after consuming unwanted nightmares, it would continue to devour a person's hopes and dreams as well. Thus, the person would live an empty and meaningless life. When we sleep, our brain goes through natural cycles of activity. These are non-rapid eye movement, non-REM sleep, and rapid eye movement, REM sleep. When we first fall asleep, we experience the first stages of non-REM sleep. In stage 1, we are in a state of relaxed wakefulness and start to drift off. People who wake up from this stage often believe that they have been fully awake. It is common to experience hypnic jerks, which resemble the jump experienced by a person when startled, sometimes accompanied by a falling sensation. In stage 2, our heart rate decreases and body temperature drops. We experience light sleep. Stage 3 is known as deep sleep, and it is the most common stage in which one experiences parasomnias, sleep disorders that include sleepwalking and night terrors, among others. Night terrors are different from nightmares. The latter occurs during REM sleep. Night terrors are episodes of waking up terrified and often screaming, crying, punching, or attempting to flee. The person can experience a rapid heartbeat, heavy breathing, profuse sweating, and incomprehensible speech. More severely, the person may strike others, damage nearby belongings, or even run into walls and furniture. The content of the episode is very difficult, if not impossible, to remember. After around 70 to 90 minutes, one experiences the first cycle of REM sleep, which occurs when a person moves from deep sleep to lighter sleep. We experience 4 to 6 cycles of REM sleep per night on average, which increase in length as the night progresses. Here, brain activity increases, and the brain paralyzes the body so that the mind can dream safely. Otherwise, the sleeping person would physically walk, move, and act according to the impulses in the dream state. It is during REM sleep when most dreaming and nightmares occur. The amount of REM sleep decreases as we grow up, typically occupying only 20 to 25% of total sleep in adults, or about 90 to 120 minutes of a night's sleep. One way of understanding why children experience more nightmares is because they are closer to the unconscious than adults, as the capacity for rational thought is not fully developed. Children experience monsters in the closet or under the bed because it is a reality for them. A well-known nightmare in literature occurs in Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. The hero Raskolnikov, who is unable to pay for his studies, goes through mental anguish and moral dilemmas. His name appropriately derives from the Russian word for schism or split. Raskolnikov contemplates robbing and murdering Alyona Ivanovna, an avaricious and abusive pawnbroker. He decides to rehearse the murder, and with a sinking heart and nervous tremor, goes to visit the pawnbroker, where he pawns an old watch for a few rubles. Afterwards, he goes to the tavern and meets Marmeladov, a likable drunk who proceeds to describe the details of his hopeless situation. On taking the drunk man home, former student witnesses a little boy who has just been beaten by Marmeladov's wife, who suffers from tuberculosis. The next day, Raskolnikov receives a lengthy guilt-inducing letter from his long-suffering, self-sacrificing mother. In order to support him in his university studies, his sister has agreed to marry an odious man whom she does not love in hopes that he will assist her brother. Tortured by the letter, Raskolnikov seeks relief in a tavern where he consumes some vodka. On his way home, he becomes drowsy and finds a place to lie down, immediately falling asleep, and has a dream. He is a child of about 7, walking with his father. There seems to be some festivity going on. Peasants are singing and are drunk. A large heavy cart stands outside the tavern. The little mare is weak and unable to pull the cart. At the invitation of the owner, drunken men pile into the cart, laughing at the owner's claim that the feeble animal can pull the cart. The owner shouts in reply, "I'll make her gallop," and begins flocking the mare, who, tugging with all her might, can barely move the cart. When others join in to beat her, the child, crying and upset, rushes to the horse to try to stop the cruelty. No one listens. The brutality escalates when the mare begins feebly kicking in protest. The owner keeps a tag animal and is furious he cannot kill her. When someone in the crowd shouts, "Fetch an axe to kill her, finish her off," the angry and drunken peasants join in and beat the mare to death. The child runs to the dead mare, puts his arms around and kisses her bleeding head. His father grabs him and carries him out of the crowd. The boy sobs, "Father, why did they kill the poor horse? They are drunk, they are brutal. It's not our business," the father replies. Sobbing and choking, the little boy puts his arms around his father. Raskolnikov wakes up terrified, gasping for breath, his hair soaked with sweat. "Good God," he cries out, can it be that I shall really take an axe, that I shall strike her on the head, split her skull open?" He renounces the accursed nightmare and experiences relief. After hours of anguish, however, Raskolnikov proceeds to murder the pawnbroker. It is Dostoevsky's genius of representation that the nightmare feels real and psychologically convincing. If we imagine that Raskolnikov finds his way to the consulting room, we would meet an agitated young man who is in acute psychic distress and is obsessed with thoughts of murder. Given his situation, it is not surprising that he would have a nightmare. There are certainly external causes. He is stressed physically, he has not been sleeping well, has had little to eat, and has been drinking alcohol. He is under a good deal of strain because of his financial situation and the alarming news of his sister's impending marriage. Raskolnikov's unresolved psychological issues are being replayed and are impacting on his current life situation. Fever dreams are experienced when one has a fever. These are more vivid, bizarre, and negative than regular dreams, with themes such as spatial distortion, threats and dangers, and illness. Franz Kafka's work perfectly illustrates a fever dream atmosphere. In his novel, The Trial, the protagonist Joseph K. wakes up one morning being arrested without having done anything wrong. He is accused of an unspecified and unknown crime. The supervisor himself does not know anything about the case, other than that he was sent by his superiors. K is notified by telephone that he has been summoned to the court and has only been given small details of the location, without knowing the time to attend. He has great trouble in finding the court in a maze-like building, and when he finally finds the place in an obscure corner in the attic, he's scolded for arriving late. K has to undergo a trial and defend himself against an incomprehensibly complex and faceless bureaucratic system that has taken complete control over his life and accuses him of charges he does not even know about. In Kafka's short story, The Metamorphosis, the protagonist, Gregor Samsa, wakes up one morning from uneasy dreams, transformed in his bed into a monstrous vermin, depicting one of the most profound forms of alienation. A human imprisoned in a non-human body. The contrast between the extraordinary situation and the ordinary terms he uses to describe it, an insect trying to get to work, creates a sense of the absurd. His family is horrified and disgusted, though there is still hope that Gregor's mind remains intact, as his mother calls him her unfortunate son. Psychologically, we all have a horrible monster within that needs our love. While most of us experience spontaneous nightmares that are often more imaginative, many also experience nightmares, recurrent recollections, and flashbacks due to traumatic experiences. This is especially the case for people suffering from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Post-traumatic nightmares are especially painful, as the person is reliving a traumatic event, which can be as terrifying as the original event. This psychological scar can worsen and lead to substance abuse and alcoholism. Trauma therapy can support one's healing process and help resolve some of the everyday challenges such a person faces. Though it may seem paradoxical, encouraging verbalization and exploration of the trauma can be cathartic. Writing down nightmares is also a version of emotional therapy. One can also experience recurring nightmares, which may or may not be caused by traumatic experiences. These happen particularly in youth, but the recurrence can continue throughout one's life. They recur because they are trying to integrate something into consciousness which a person lacks. Usually, they stop appearing after one realizes what the message is, whether in the dreaming state or in waking life. When our ego attitude changes in response to our dreams, the unconscious responds. Perhaps one of the strangest types of dreams are precognitive or prophetic nightmares. People have experienced terrifying visions which later came to happen in reality, as if they momentarily gained access to a doorway into the future. These are relatively rare and can only be verified as such when the recognized event has actually happened. In his work Synchronicity, an acausal connecting principle, Swiss psychiatrist and psychologist Carl Jung explores coincidences that are connected so meaningfully that they broke all statistical probabilities. These are called synchronicities, or meaningful coincidences, which occur when a content of one's inner life, dream, vision, mood, etc., is seen to have a correspondence in outer life. The inner image has come true. Jung writes of a precognitive vision he experienced. I saw yellow waves, swimming rubble and the death of countless thousands. 2 weeks passed, then the vision returned, still more violent than before, and an inner voice spoke, "Look at it, it is completely real, and it will come to pass. You cannot doubt this." Many visions continued after this one, including the seas turning red with blood, and his soul asking him if he will accept war and destruction, showing him images of military weapons, human remains, sunken ships, destroyed states, and so on, shortly after the First World War broke out. Jung wrote little on the phenomenon of nightmares. It is possible, however, to interpret nightmares in a Jungian lens from his general theory of dreams. He writes, "Dreams are impartial, spontaneous products of the conscious psyche, outside the control of the will. They are pure nature. They show us the unvarnished natural truth, and are therefore fitted, as nothing else is, to give us back an attitude that accords with our basic human nature, when our consciousness has strayed too far from its foundations and run into an impasse." A fundamental concept in Jung's dream theory is the compensatory function of dreams. Dreams reveal the inevitable one-sidedness of our conscious life and focus on those aspects that are not sufficiently within our field of awareness. Jung writes, "Every interpretation is a hypothesis, an attempt to read an unknown text. An obscure dream, taken in isolation, can hardly ever be interpreted with any certainty. For this reason, I attach little importance to the interpretation of single dreams. A relative degree of certainty is reached only in the interpretation of a series of dreams, where the later dreams correct the mistakes we have made in handling those that went before."
So I know what I want to
Accumulated knowledge. Thoth is
I know what I want to play. No, that ain't it. That's it. Mm-hmm. Oh, you know, because all that crazy now, huh? All right, hang tight, family. Oh, there it is.
Introduction. We take great pleasure in presenting to the attention of students and investigators of the secret doctrines this little work based upon the world-old
No, that's still
Hermetic
not the one. That's still
teachings.
not the one I want to follow.
There has been
Hold on a
so
second.
little.
Give me a minute, family. It's this still ain't the one I'm looking for. This still ain't what I'm looking for. Hold on. But I guess they don't want y'all to just listen to it. Yeah, this it here. This it. I don't know if y'all hear. Hold on a minute. I forgot to do this. Hold on a second. I forgot I had to share it. Give me a minute, y'all. I be trying to move so damn fast. I be goddamn forgetting half what I be damn doing. I be trying to do several things at one time. Mm. Man, I just can't find that what I want to show y'all. No, well. I guess they want y'all. I guess they. I guess that means they want y'all to listen to some astrology.
see you here. I'm really excited about our conversation, and I hope that we can unveil some of the secrets of karma as regards astrology. This is a subject that I've grappled with for decades. I've studied Buddhism and yoga and Advaita Vedanta and so many different paths that describe karma. And it's worth our listeners knowing that Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, all subscribe to karma, although they come at it with a slightly different approach. It's not, there's no dispute about the karma itself, it's the way that it fits into the philosophy that is slightly different. So we'll have a look at that, because there's a lot of things that are confusing, and especially in pop culture. I think maybe we can touch on dharma as well with regards to karma. I think that could be really helpful, because that's another word that people don't seem to understand, and I think it's really helpful to understand, because it gives us a context, especially when we're looking at an astrology chart. So Vic, what would you like to say about karma, and how would you like to start our conversation here?
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me.
I would rather have you start.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the three types of karma are the thing that interests me. I'm going to just pull up the notes so that I can read the definition, because this is something that we can at least work from, the definition of the three different kinds of karma, and then we can extract different ideas. So prarabdha karma is the karma that we experience here and now. This is our life. This is often considered to be what brought us to this point in life. And it's a part of sanchita karma, which is the sum total of the past of our lives, as well as other experiences of life. For example, I am here as a Caucasian woman. I did not control that. I can't possibly change the fact that I'm white. I'm 1.66 meters tall. This is something I don't have any choice around. I will never be 2 meters tall. That's my sanchita karma. And the prarabdha karma is, what do I do with this frame? What do I do with this body? Do I dye my hair? Do I get fat? Do I get skinny? I can change elements of who I am, but I can't change fundamentally that. And then we have kriyamana or agami karma, which is the karma that we're doing right now. Whatever we do in this moment is bringing a future moment, and it's contributing to a future. And then all of that coming together is how we experience this present moment. So it crystallizes in what we understand about now, but there's multi-layers of karma. So it's not that there's some punishment or some reason that this is happening to me. It's all a very complex web of events, some of which I've controlled, some of which I have not controlled from the past and from this present action. What do I do with that? One great example I find for people who are not really understanding that is issues around trauma. We can't help what happens to us. You know, if we have loss or some kind of shock in life, that's an event that happens. We didn't necessarily create that event, but we can control and decide how we respond to the event. And so these two karmas intersecting creates then the future, or the present going towards the future that we can experience. So what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, I think different people break karma down in different ways to try to help people understand it. So you get ideas of 3 types of karma or 5 types or whatever. Mm-hmm. Let's do it. Let's start. Let's do it ourselves today. I think it's very important to understand that ideas are expressed in words. So if you understand the words carefully, then you'll understand the idea. Mm-hmm. But if we are lazy about the words, then we won't understand the idea really. So karma is a word that's made from a seed word called krit. And krit means an action.
I was making up my bed.
To do something. So karma has to do with doing something. This is the thing about karma which makes it different from other ideas of fate. The other ideas of fate, we generally don't hear about why. All we hear about is this is going to happen, this is supposed to happen. But they don't really, those words like fate or destiny, they don't speak anything about why this is supposed to happen a certain way. But in the word karma, the idea is that an action has happened. So since this is basically what we're talking about when we talk about karma, we could use really simple models to explain it. Like you can just explain the act of pushing a ball. So when the act of pushing the ball is the krita, that's the action. And then the person who pushes the ball is the karta. And then the ball rolling is the karma. And then the place that it rolls to is the karta.
No, that's the person.
Karna, or some karya. It's the karya. It's the effect.
Mm-hmm.
So in English, you have the action, the actor, the energy of the action, and then the effect of the action.
Mm-hmm.
So what karma actually refers to is the energy of the action. So like pushing up, like in physics, we have a concept of potential energy and kinetic energy. So if I raise the ball up to here, then I've increased its potential energy. And that's also like the upper of the karma.
Mm.
It's the karma is in this ball now, but it hasn't really come true yet.
Mm. Could we call that a natal chart? Could we describe that the natal chart?
No.
No.
On a small scale, yes, but on a large scale, the natal chart is already the dropping of the ball.
Okay.
And then when you drop the ball, then that kinetic energy is like the karma. But the transition from holding the ball up to dropping the ball down, we don't have that concept in physics.
Mm.
And that's the concept of karma, is the transition from a cause to an effect.
Mm. Okay.
And so it includes the cause and the effect, but it's the transition state. So
but
I
then
was watching.
Let's back up just a second.
Sure.
So how did the ball appear? Like, how did we get to the point where we're holding a ball?
Why do you ask these difficult questions?
Because this also, like the fact that I'm born, you by coincidence, we're both born in the United States. Neither of us have ended up anywhere near where we were born. And so there's some cause that just landed us there, and another cause that pushed us to go somewhere else.
Okay, so let's say, why did I wind up with a ball and not a triangle?
Yeah.
Somebody must have pushed a ball towards me, right?
But who?
The ball must have come into my room, right? Why?
Yeah.
Because somebody pushed the ball towards me. But who is that somebody?
Yeah, that's the question.
It must have been me.
That you pushed the ball towards you.
Yeah.
You attracted the ball.
I pushed the ball, but I exist.
Right.
I exist in the past, present, and future.
Mm-hmm.
So I push the ball in the past, and in the future I receive the ball. And I pick it up and I drop it.
Mm.
That's another thing that's important about the Vedic concept of fate, which is kind of unique to the Vedic concept of fate, which is it's not Zeus who decides what happens to me. It's me that decides what happens to me.
Right.
And
yeah,
Zeus
that's
is the
maybe
one
a
that makes sure that it happens.
We can just pause on that distinction, because in the Greco-Roman distinction of fate, it's actually gods doing this. It's the three goddesses of fate that are deciding. So that means that there's some kind of willfulness on the part of spirit or on the part of God, on the part of a god or goddesses. And this is very different in the Hindu or Vedantic general yogic way of looking at these concepts. For Buddhism, although Buddhism extracts even that notion of a separate God. Like in the notion in Buddhism is of what my teacher calls no coming, no going, which means that we are a continuum. There's a continuum, there's no established separate self. And this is where we are just simply a constant shift from one form, from one way of being to another. And it's about conditions and causes that creates this moment. And similarly, future moments will be caused and created based on whether or not the causes and conditions are right, but otherwise not. So like you're talking about the potential of dropping the ball, or the potential that the height of the ball creates. And this is that understanding of causes and conditions. We don't necessarily always get the right causes and conditions. If I bring this back to a birth chart, like I've seen, for example, charts where people have enormous potential. I met a woman who was in her 70s. She was the mother of a client of mine, so I knew a lot of the context of the family. I was absolutely sure this woman was just some kind of dynamo. She looked like she had this brilliant career, that she was incredibly powerful. The chart just had so much promise. And when I met her, she was almost defeated. Her whole life had been sort of passed by, and she had had a very difficult divorce about 40 years earlier, and it marked her. And she never did anything, really. Like, she just kind of kept going day by day. And it was that event, that's like 8 or 9 years ago, that really got me to think, so what is guaranteed in a chart? Like, what is fated, if we can call it fated, and what is just our choice, and how do we engage with that? So sorry, I think I'm going a little off track here, but this is the stuff that keeps me up at night. This is the stuff I don't understand.
Well, what I think an astrology chart is a map to try to understand the trajectories of the karma that are bearing fruit in this life. So just like I might not be not everybody reads a map well or accurately. So often we get lost. I mean, especially me, I'm really bad with maps. Often I get lost even with my Google, map on my phone.
Right.
So it's not guaranteed that just because something looks a certain way in the chart, that's the way it actually is, because these maps are very complicated. So even if we say, how come this woman looks like she's supposed to be a super dynamo, but she wasn't? Maybe we just misread the map. That's another possibility too.
Yeah.
Maybe. Well, and then the other thing is, it is a map for your birth. So actually, I was watching one of my favorite television shows, which is this 1988 Indian television series of Mahabharata. It's this television serialization of Mahabharata.
Yeah. It was every Wednesday night for like ever. Yeah.
Sunday, I think it was. I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, was it Sunday? Yeah, maybe Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah. So in it, they have Krishna says something like, "You don't think about the past. Don't think about the past, because that happened." And it already happened, and no matter how much you think about it, it's not going to not happen. But what you have to think about is, what are you going to do now?
Right.
Now that that's happened, what are you going to do? So that's another aspect of karma that's interesting. It's not a concept of, since we are the architects of the momentum that forms our karma, we never stop being the architects of it.
Right.
So we keep interacting with it.
This is probably what New Age people describe as co-creation, right? This would be that concept of co-creation.
I guess. So yes, so sometimes people are born under certain circumstances, but they really work with that in a different way than is expected. There's also that possibility.
So then, from a karmic point of view, this is what confuses me. It's like, is that meant to happen? Is that, is this something, like one of the things that people often say is, it's kismet, it's destiny, this is what had to happen. You had to go to this place. I'll give you an example. This is why I'm so confused. When I was about 20, I went to a palm reader, and I was in Toronto. I was studying in Toronto, and Krishna Chawla, he was called, and he was extraordinary. I went in as neutrally as possible. I took off, thinking I take off all my jewelry and wear a really simple t-shirt. He won't know anything about me. And he read my palm and described things that, at the age of 57 now, have all come to fruition, like literally all of them.
Hey, baby girl.
Things that were impossible to just randomly select. And so then the question is, well, that's in my hand, like that, what the hell? How is that even possible? And then we see the same kinds of things coming through the birth chart. The resemblance of what he described in the hand is there in the birth chart as well. And so, and then described by transits. It's like the impulses are the transits. And working with the transits, how we respond, let's say, to the transits. And so this is what I'm trying to grapple with. You know, it's like, how do we get to that point where at the age of 20, some total stranger can tell me these things will happen? And it's not stuff that I can then say, okay, I'm going to make that happen. You know, he said things like, you will have foreign husbands, 2. Then he told me to forget that he said that. He said, we're living in 5 different countries. At that point, I had been living in 2 because I was born in the US and raised in Canada. But still, now I'm on my 5th country. And it's this is things that happened that drew me in this direction, but not me saying, oh, he told me I should move, you know, to go to my 4th or 5th country, you know. So this is the thing that I'm trying to grapple with. How much am I involved in this choice? And how much is that choice just making me do it? You know, or the pre-selected sort of me, making me just show up and do this thing.
Yeah, I find that very interesting too. And I have something to say about that.
Okay.
And it also has to do with how complicated life is too, because we don't live in a vacuum.
Yeah,
So we're living with all these other people, and our actions and also our success and failure affects the people that we're connected with. So it's extremely a delicate system. Karma is an extremely delicate system. So the best that I can grasp, the way the engineers of the universe have designed it, is that they kind of put it into these discrete blocks called lifetimes, where you are not really able to change that much within that particular lifetime. But you, but nonetheless, your deeds have a huge effect on your karma.
Yep.
But not always a huge effect on your karma in that lifetime.
Right. Yeah, and the rest we don't know. Then we just
So this actually, I think if you had a person who is an impeccable reader of the karmic map, they could probably tell me how many times I would blink today.
Right, that would be impressive.
You know, if they were really, really perfect at reading the map. I think the astrological gears and the karmic gears are that detailed. And then somebody would say, well, then you don't have any free will. It's not that I don't have free will. I have free will. But the effects of my like if a train is moving at 80 miles an hour on a train track, there's no doubt that it's going to be in a certain place at a certain time.
Right.
Like me and my friend just had this conversation. I just texted him and told him to come over and listen to this. That's why I said we can't make it. We just had this whole conversation about this here, and I just happened to run across this video. That's why I'm playing it.
Anticipate something.
It doesn't mean that the driver doesn't have will and can't change the speed. It doesn't mean that something might might not change, but the change would happen in some later frame. When it's possible to change, when the momentum has changed. So I think that there's these discrete things called lifetimes. And that's part of the real purpose for having reincarnation and lifetimes, is that how can I made a big change in my karma because of the things that I've done in my lifetime. I've made huge changes. Well, how can I have huge changes? I still have the same parents. I still have the same body. I still have the same brain that I was born with. How can these huge changes affect me? Bam, have a new life. Right. Have a new birth, become a new person, go to a new loka.
And thus the importance of right action and the Dharma, the way that we're understanding how important it is to act in accordance with what is good, what is right, what is fair, so that we're not creating some problematic future for ourselves or other people. Maybe if we could talk about Dharma at this point. This is something that I find people mix up a lot with karma, because Dharma is often in the West, it's often seen as something that is your one and only purpose. Like there's this thing that you're here for. You're here for a reason, and you hear that a lot. You're here for a reason. And it was one of the most freeing things for me to realize that there was no specific purpose to my life, that I could create multitudes of purposes and that they would change. And at some point, my Dharma was being a student, and at another point, it was being a wife, and then having children and looking after them, come what may, and then it becomes, branching out into a career, branching out into a different career. That's all dharma, and it's all kind of the foundation of all of that is how I do that, which is another form of dharma, the understanding of the righteousness or the right way of being in that context. But it's not about trying to find that singular thing that you're here for, like that big one shining star that is going to make you happy, which I think is what the New Age movement kind of pushes in terms of that idea. Do you have any comments about that, or how to tie into karma especially?
Dharma and karma are very inseparable. And most of the definitions of karma have to do with dharma, like most of the classical definitions.
Can you give an example? Can you give an example?
Give me a second. I'll find it. I might need my glasses here. So, for example, Jaimini Sutra. Jaimini Sutra is the sutra for Mimamsaka Darshan, where it explains what all the words and everything are in Shastra. It says, Chodana Lakshanota Dharma. And the commentary is that this is a definition of karma, and that the word dharma actually means karma.
They equate it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And it says that the dharma is something which produces a good result and has a sense of being something that you're supposed to do. That's the definition of dharma. So that you can see why it's interchangeable with karma, because it's something which will produce a result, something which will have an effect. So the whole concept then is, if this action is good, then it produces a good effect, and if the action is bad, then it produces a bad effect. But the word dharma itself gives you the clue to answer the question of how you know if something is good or bad.
So
because the etymology of the word
dharma.
The etymology of the word dharma means property.
Right.
So a dharma is a quality of a dharmi, a substance. So like wetness is the quality of water.
Right.
Wetness
like,
is a
it's
dharma.
like what is ours? What is ours to do, or to use, or to create? Right.
Yeah, it's sort of like saying you are a mom. So that is your dharma, is that you're a mom. Therefore, your karma is to feed, clothe, educate, protect.
Right.
The child. So there's inseparability between dharma and karma, and that's why karma also there's another 3 ways of defining karma: is karma, vikarma, and akarma. Karma in the sense of this is an action that you should have done. You were right in doing this action. This action is something that, if you're a screwdriver, then you're screwing those screws was a good act.
Right.
Because you're a screwdriver. But if you're a hammer, then you're trying to screw screws was a bad act.
Right. Right.
And so it will produce a bad effect. You'll ruin the wood if you're a hammer trying to put the screws in. But if you're a screwdriver, you'll produce a good effect. And then there's the concept of akarma, which means not doing anything, which Krishna says is also divided into 2 things. It can be good to not do something, or it can be bad to not do something.
Right. But
you don't do something you should have done, that's bad.
Right, that's adharmic. And then you have the not doing anything, which is actually another choice, which is then karmic. Yeah. Right.
So, dharma is an interesting thing. It means, it changes based on what you are. So there's a concept of Sanatana Dharma versus Naimittic Dharma. The dharmas which are permanent, versus the dharmas which are incidental, or incidental, like coincidental.
Right.
Because I enrolled in this school, now I am a student, so it's my dharma to study this from this teacher at this school.
Right. So it's temporal.
If I don't do that, that's going to lead to a bad result.
Right. So Sanatana Dharma is the truth. It's like absolute truth that we can rely on, and the temporal Dharma is something that's just showing up right now. If
the concept of Sanatana Dharma is that there's some property to you that doesn't change ever. Like there's other properties which change sometimes over the course of your life. Now I'm 5 years old. Next time I'm 10 years old, and I'm 15. That always changes, so I have different dharmas depending on my age. But I'm always a human for this whole lifetime. So what are the humans should learn language, probably, and speak, because that's our asset. So that's a more permanent dharma, and therefore it's more important. So that the dharmas of my temporary dharma should never override or supersede the more longer term dharmas.
Because we could almost describe them as universal. The Sanatana Dharma is more universal. It affects all of us, right? It's what we do that affects all of us.
And it's just simply more important because it's deeper down to what we are. It's less incidental. The self has so many different layers of what it is, and some of the layers are very incidental. They change all the time, but some don't. So the more that we get involved with doing the deeds that are truly a part of what we truly are, the more that we get our reactions and our results that reinforce that, what we truly are. It puts us into the world of what we truly and really are. So the concept of Sanatana Dharma is that, well, you're an Atma, you're Atma. So you should do actions that are relevant to Atma, Paramatma, and not just worldly actions.
So in a way, this ties into our previous talk about the Kali Yuga, which is that this is what is confused and lacking in our kind of social structure nowadays, where the understanding of our universal dharma or the Sanatana Dharma, the acting from truth, acting from what the Buddha would call right livelihood, right action, right speech, etc., the Noble Eightfold Path, that all of that is skewed now in this Kali Yuga. And so then we get much more of the temporal version of dharma, that I want this, more driven from the ego. I want this, like I want the certificate, so I do the course. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's in everybody's benefit. It's more, my perception is it's more selfish. It's more like self-driven. And then we, by definition, then we create more karma, if I can say that, by being selfish. We're now no longer engaging on behalf of everybody. We're not thinking in terms of other consequences of our choices. More and more this is happening, and then we find that the results are horrible, and this is what a lot of times people describe as unintended consequences. People naively or innocently doing something that ends up having catastrophic consequences. And social media comes to mind. So this kind of thing, of course, it's good as well. Social media can be very good as well, but it has also unleashed a whole new can of worms. So, that was just a thought that came up, because I feel like this is the underlying problem with the Kali Yuga that we're dealing with. That we've misunderstood our dharma, misunderstood this.
Something interesting just came to my mind too. It's the that relationship between karma and dharma also reflects on astrology. Everybody talks about astrology being predictive or descriptive, right? But it's both, because karma and dharma are inseparable.
Right. Now that makes it clear, yeah.
You can't describe the predictive stuff without knowing the nature.
Right.
So really, the astrological chart, like I said before, if somebody was like Brahma, some type of a demigod, type of intelligence, they could probably read my chart so well that they could predict the next word that I was going to say. But would be using the astrology chart to predict the karmas, right? But they could also use that same information to predict the dharmas. So they could tell me really what I'm like. And there's no difference really between knowing exactly what I'm like and knowing what the next word is that I'm going to say. And that's what I think that's how I find astrology is used usefully.
Right.
It's because we have a lot of confusion actually about what am I? Because there's so many voices telling us what we should be, what we are, what we probably are, what we probably should be. You should probably be, you shouldn't, being a mom is not cool anymore. Or who wants to be a dad? Or don't be a student, be a teacher, or all these kind of things. But we're not really sure about who we are. Am I really a child now? I'm 16. How much should I still depend on my parents? Like this, it's confusing. And what astrology does really well, I feel, is just gives you this impartial, hopefully, I mean, if you can read it yourself, then it gives you this like impartial information. This is who you are. This is your dharma.
Yeah.
This describes you, and therefore you should act like this. You should do these things.
Yeah. I'm not entirely sure that if we read it ourselves, we're impartial. I think we look for what we want to find, right?
Yeah.
I find the most extraordinary descriptions that people put in the comments, and all based on what their placements are. And just as an aside, I also want to mention for those who ask in the comments when I post a video about moons or some kind of event astrologically, one of the reasons I can't answer those questions is because I need to see your natal chart. I can't tell you what is going to happen when Mars hits your natal sun, because I don't know what that looks like in your chart. And so there's a neutral description which may or may not be useful, but you have to see that the dharma to see what the karma is going to be, and vice versa. So this is the reason why. It's not because I want you to buy a reading. It's because I can't literally tell you anything useful if I have no idea who you already are, or what I call the natal promise is. So
what you're already saying on YouTube is already the bit of impartial information that they should really be taking. They should put in some effort if they want to know what is going to happen when the sun hits their Mars, and take the information you already told them.
Yeah, and develop it. This is another problem that often the people who are most fearful around issues of karma and fate and so on are the ones who don't take action on their own behalf. And then they believe that astrology is doing something to them as opposed to informing them of what's going on, or even informing them of what is already there in their nature. And this is something I try constantly to remind people. It's not you, like you were saying earlier, you are participating in this. You have to also step forward and meet at least halfway to be able to, but I do find a lot of people talk a lot about fear and talk a lot about, worry about transits and so on. And it's literally the only reason we're afraid is because we're not taking action. That's a single, for me, a definition of fear is that you are not taking action. And you can apply that to almost anything, whether it be natally or transits or whatever, in your relationships or whatever.
Yeah, I think actually karma is an important concept for people to understand for that very reason, because it's the word, it comes from the word krit, which means do. So you need to do something. I came up with a little slogan recently, which was use astrology to discover, not define yourself.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
Because you define yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The astrology just shows you how you've been just defining yourself over the past billion lifetimes.
Right. Yeah.
Now, what Krishna said in Mahabharata is that's already done.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what are you going to do with it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, where do you want to go with it? What do you want to do with it? Another handy, like kind of hackneyed or played out, but very useful analogy is the analogy of like a card game, where you get the part where you get the hand from the dealer. It's not in your control.
Right. Yeah.
But the part, what you do after you get the cards in your hands is entirely in your control. Otherwise, poker wouldn't be a sport.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
It's an interesting teaching device. You see this all the way through the Mahabharata, the dice, rolling the dice. Now, this is very deep symbolism of that very notion. This is symbolic of our karmic engagements and what's not in our control. So, and I just want to, as an aside to what you just said, I just want to also emphasize that we ultimately are here to understand that it's not personal. All of this, none of life is personal. I feel that there's a bigger game going on, and that so often people identify really personally, really strongly with their natal placements. So I get so many comments. Oh, people will literally say things like, "I'm a Scorpio sun, and therefore I'm like this," or my moon and sun and ascendant combination makes me do this. I can't help it. This will happen, or this is my life. It's a horrible life because I'm a triple Virgo, or whatever. They'll say things like this, and there's too much personal identification with the symbols of astrology. Have I lost you? I'm not sure if my internet is working.
No, I'm still here.
Oh, good. Okay. So yeah, just to remind people that it's a guide. It's not meant to be descriptive in the sense that you're limited to this. You're not supposed to be restricted by these definitions. You're supposed to take them as an aspect or an element of understanding of who you are, and to fix yourself into a personality type based on different planetary placements is not helpful, because it keeps you in a program that might be the thing that literally takes you away from your dharma, or from something that can be much better.
Yeah, this is funny, I think. Funny in a bad way. Another famous angle on a thing about Vedic astrology is how Indian people always wear the rings and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's almost comical. Like, it's an easy thing to make fun of.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got a guy with like 10 rings and 4 earrings on. So he's got like every planet covered. But think about that, actually. Think about the concept behind it. Although it's been sort of stupefied into this passive thing of just like you buy something and then it's okay. But think about the idea behind it. The idea behind it is that you can do something about this karma.
Right. Yeah, there's an element of decision and choice in wearing a pearl, or wearing a yellow sapphire or something if you're too pure. But that is coming from you choosing this. Of course, that again, coming into Kali Yuga, it's very commercialized, so there's a lot of this fear mongering in certain aspects of Indian astrology, and we're going to get hate comments about judging Indian astrology. I'm already ready for them. It's not about judging Indian astrology, it's just about recognizing where things have gone a little off course. There's a lot of fear and a lot of manipulation around what is going to happen to you if you don't do certain things, and it often is enriching for the person who says that you should do these things. And so this we need to be aware of as well. This is less of a feature in Western astrology, but on the other hand, it's very clickbaity as well. If we look at it from a YouTube perspective, the excitement, the fear, Mercury retrograde, oh my God, Mercury's retrograde, that's clickbait. So it's a similar kind of energy. And so it's like making a person worry, what's going to go wrong? And then you impel them to learn something or try and understand something, which is actually not really helpful. It's kind of, for me, I see the equivalency in the West.
But the point that I was sort of getting at was, even though this is sort of a comical thing, it actually shows a very important, good concept about how astrology is to be used. With Indian culture, they don't take the chart as this is your doom. They take the chart as this is your this is your fate. This is what's happening to you. What are you going to do with it? And that's how I take it. Although I don't wear any rings, right, or any covet shows or anything. But when I think about, for example, my moon is in Gemini in the 6th house, and my sun is in Leo in the 8th house, and I'm a Capricorn ascendant. When I think about that, I get a picture in my mind of what kind of person I am versus what kind of person I want to be. And then I know, when you know point A and point B, then you know which direction to move. When you don't know point A or point B, then you don't know which direction to move. So people, I think what you're experiencing, and of course I experience it as well, is people don't want to admit that they have agency. Because that is scary. It's not even nice to be a man, actually, because as men are always like the more agent one, the part two, the one who's the support of the family. It's one of the big drags of being a man, is that you have so much goddamn agency.
Yeah, the responsibility. Yeah.
Yeah, so much, like everything is supposed to be.
That's a very Capricorn ascendant thing to say, by the way.
What is that?
That's a very Capricorn ascendant thing to say.
Oh, really? Yeah. I mean, I know myself. It was like, I wish I could just get rid of some of this agency.
Yeah.
Get rid of some of this responsibility. Let other people do things. Let other people be responsible for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's that same basic feeling. Is like, I just want to be a baby. What to speak of man, woman? Let's just go back and be babies.
Yeah. Yeah.
And have our parents take care of us all day long. That's even better.
Yeah.
Let somebody take care of me all day long, and if anything bad happens to me, it's their fault.
Right.
That's how we feel. That's how we're approaching life. We don't want to say, I am suffering because I did screwed up things.
Right.
I did things wrong, or I didn't do things that I was supposed to do. Because A, that makes us feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
And B, that means I have to do all this work in my life.
I have to be
But
responsible.
guess what, ladies and gentlemen? That's right.
Right. Yes, exactly.
We
And
did
now in the
screw up a
comments,
whole
we're
bunch
going to
of
get
things.
victim blaming comments. This is how this works now, because now the mind in many cases, especially with Westerners, there's an idea that now we're victim blaming, and this is where that the gap is in understanding that taking responsibility is incredibly empowering, and recognizing our part in how things have emerged, how things have happened, recognizing how we've contributed to whatever it is. And that has nothing to do with victim or perpetrator. It has everything to do with how we've showed up all along the way in this process. And
I think the point of victim blaming is that it's evil because it empowers the predator.
Yeah.
Victim blaming empowers the predator. It lets the predator off the hook.
Mm-hmm.
But when you understand karma, you're not empowering the predator. You're saying you better take action.
Mm-hmm.
And part of your problem was you didn't protect yourself against predators.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
These predators are out there. You better not become a predator, and you better not make yourself be a sucker for predators, and you better watch out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's not victim blaming.
Yeah.
Because
it's being
who gets the blame? That's the other thing. That's another thing about Mahabharata. Who gets the blame? We don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
People are baffled. Who's supposed to be blamed for this?
Right. Yeah.
Because there's a whole chain of people who are blamed, and we share some of the blame for everything that happens to us. But we're not. But we were brought up, and we were raised as a society. The parents, everybody is part of the people that need to be blamed. The perpetrator of the crime is a major person who needs to be blamed.
Right.
For the crime. But what do I have control over?
Mm-hmm.
If somebody comes and stabs me, the biggest problem was that somebody stabbed me. It's not I'm not the biggest problem.
Right.
But what can I do about it?
Mm-hmm.
I can't do anything about that person that stabbed me, because that's a different person. But I could do something about me.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm gonna go to an astrologer or a self-help person, and he's going to tell me about everything that's wrong with that person that stabbed me, that doesn't help me at all.
Mm-hmm.
I need to know what is it about me that I can do differently.
Right.
That's what astrology will help you with.
Yeah. Yeah. How to find that personal strength, the force inside to go forward from whatever's gone on in the past, right? Yeah. And then that whole issue around who's at fault or who's to blame is misunderstanding the very notion of karma and this interdependent or what is the Buddha's word is dependent arising. That we are all doing something that causes something to happen, and then when people say, "Oh, X or Y started a war," or X or Y did this, it's like, well, how far back do we want to go? Like from what day do we want to start examining this, and should we ignore hundreds of years of history? Or how do you want to point the finger of blame? And there's this great expression, which is when you point that finger of blame, you've got these three fingers pointing back at you. And I like that in terms of karma, because it's really recognizing, well, on the one hand, you're looking outwards for some person to be responsible or some situation to be responsible for this, and ignoring at the same time that there's an enormous amount that we can do about it, or that we need to own, that we need to take responsibility for.
Yeah, and also I think victim blaming comes in by there's another logical fallacy called misdirection.
Okay.
So victim blaming, I think, can only happen when you utilize that fallacy of misdirection. So like you could say, Putin attacks Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
So Putin is the bad guy, he's the evil person. But then somebody's going to come along and say, but NATO crossed the limits and they did this X, Y, and Z, and that's putting Putin on edge, and that's why Putin attacked NATO. That's why Putin attacks Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
So does that mean that Putin is fine?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It means that Putin is still the bad guy, and also NATO is a bad guy.
Yeah.
NATO. But victim blaming would be, and so if you push that all the way back, you'll eventually come to some karma from the people who live in Ukraine.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, does that mean that it's not Putin's fault? only if you misdirect and you forget about Putin. The most fault is on the immediate cause, which is Putin.
Right. Yeah.
The secondary thing is on NATO. The tertiary thing is on whoever, whatever, Eisenhower, whoever, 1950s, past lives, all these past lives of past lives of past lives of all these people.
Yeah.
But the fact that I am to blame for everything that happens in my life, and I'm also to credit for everything that happens in my life, also doesn't mean that my mother and father don't get any credit or blame.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that my wife doesn't get any credit or blame. That's, I think, where people get sloppy in the thinking.
Exactly. That's it. I think this is really the core issue, which is actually the core issue that we need to understand in any spiritual practice, is our profoundly interconnected nature, that we cannot extract ourselves out from other elements, which again comes back to this notion of karma. It's all happening all at once, and it's all been happening over time, and it's all going to continue to happen. And we just have this moment where we can have agency, this moment where we can do something about it. And we can't cherry pick the bits that we like or don't like within that, because that's ignoring all of these influences, all the rest of these influences that are impacting us, like you said, in ways that we can't know, because it's mysterious. It's so complex in so many different ways that we cannot know how I got to this point. Like, it's just YouTube algorithms brought me to this point. Well, what brought me onto YouTube? So it's like, how did we get here? And we just will never know. And so some questions are not really worth asking, because they're distracting us from what we can do right now in this moment, which is our dharma. So do you have anything that you want to wrap up with? Anything that we haven't spoken about? I mean, there's a million things that we haven't spoken about, but in terms of...
I think maybe I would mention, we didn't really talk too much about the fate.
Right. Y'all are in this very mutually prideful energy of like, sticking your nose up in the air, possibly ignoring each other. Okay. What's so interesting is how they were acting before. It does look like they may have turned their back on that, but it's coming back in. It's gonna recycle itself. It's gonna come back around, that energy. So what is this? Looks like, okay. It's almost like something here is a little toxic, right? And what I mean by that, it's like things are just, y'all are not being completely upfront with each other. There could be outside parties involved some way, somehow in this, okay? It looks like a lot of waiting and a lot of like looking at each other and then turning your back on this and then revisiting it and then turning your back on this. Could be a fire sign. Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. I also have earth and water. The Lovers could be another Gemini for some of y'all. Okay. So can I just tell you that this person, they like you. I think it irritates them that they like you so much. Because I saw that Devil card. There's definitely something irritating. Like you are irritating this person. The feelings they have for you are irritating them as well. You're triggering them. So the Lovers card here, 3 of Wands, the connection doesn't, what's so irritating is it doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense because the Lovers card to me kind of reminds me of the Oracle card of the Romance Angel deck, Past Life. I can't think of the name of it, but basically that card is like a connection that surpasses logic. Okay. I do feel like you have like a couple of potential suitors, Gemini. They're around you or they're in your vicinity. Now, if you're like, Christina, what are you talking about? I don't even leave the house. Well, first of all, walk out the front door, okay? You probably got your mailman checking you out, okay? You got the guy at Home Depot checking you out, Okay. There are people around you. And if you're a single Gemini and you're just like, I'm not talking to anyone, I don't see anyone. Well, are you putting yourself in the position to be seen? You don't have to. You don't have to care. Okay. You're releasing this. Gemini, you're releasing this. You said this is a headache. This is too much. It's too much. You're like, Christina, this is too much. Some of you guys are going to start focusing on yourself, skill development. I actually see, Gemini, you could be going back to school. Okay, some of you guys are taking all of this pent-up energy, okay, and you're taking it and you might be developing some sort of skill or refocusing yourself in some other area of your life because you're like, this is too much. You said it's too much, all right? I actually see, Gemini, if you, those of you that are considering going back to school for whatever it is, okay, to get a certificate of some kind or just skill development in general. Now, you don't have to actually go back to school. I don't know if you know, but we live in 2023. You can pretty much learn anything online. Just a little FYI there. But it does look like wherever you focus your attention, whatever work you're putting into that area, I see it being successful. Okay, I definitely see some type of return in your investment, okay, when it comes to your efforts here. Yeah, look at that, Queen of Pentacles. Gemini, I just see you kind of just letting something go and focusing on yourself, loving yourself, working on things for yourself. If you have children, that's what you're making your main focus is, your children. Just getting excited about your life, being passionate about your life, okay? Some of you guys, the Ace of Wands is a desired goal. I just see a lot of growth, okay, and some sort of new opportunity that you have gained interest in. I feel like it's a new endeavor. It's something new that excites you, okay, with the Ace of Wands, Queen of Pentacles. I'm also getting those of you that are unemployed, if you're actively seeking employment, I definitely see someone reaching out to you and you gaining employment, having the option to gain it, because I see more work coming in for you. Okay, if you are an online person, a content creator, more views. Okay, if you are someone who owns their own business, I definitely see a lot of growth and expansion in that. If you work for someone, Ace of Wands tells me it looks like there's going to be some sort of new skill development. It tells me you're going to be working, like there's a new position being offered to you that is a little more challenging, where you're going to be put in a position to where you can develop more skills. Okay. Thank you, Robin, for the super chat. Thank you so much. And thank you, Empress. Thank you for the super chat, babe. I appreciate that. Options in love coming toward you, Gemini. You do have someone that triggers you coming towards you as well. And I'm also getting with the King of Wands, that's an entrepreneur. Some of you guys, you need to have more of an entrepreneur mindset, get organized when it comes toward that. Something here about time management as well. You know what, Gemini? I'm getting a strong message of like, focus more on the things that benefit you. Focus on the things that are benefiting you and less on the things that don't benefit you. Let's get another love message and I'll pull you a money message. Spirit, what else for Gemini? There's some sort of clarity coming to you in regards to this person that has been in and out. So, some sort of truth getting revealed, clarity. Gemini, do you realize you actually kind of hold power over this person, because I do see they're very triggered by you. You hold more power over this person than you realize. Okay. may have felt like this person didn't have good intentions towards you, or you found out that they didn't have good intentions towards you. Okay, there could be some sort of shocking revelation coming to you. Some of you Geminis, you're realizing that you gained interest on, some of you Geminis are realizing some sort of reoccurring issue within yourself, or if you were to pay attention to your own patterns, you'd realize there are certain things you're doing that might keep you stuck in some sort of karmic cycle. It's almost like, you know, it's up to you on whether or not you're going to recognize the signs and do something about it, of course, but it's almost like you are. Like, I feel like you guys are recognizing the part you're playing when it comes to attracting people into your life. It's kind of like you're gaining control over that, like realizing that, you know, you're breaking your own heart in some way by give me one more card for that. There's a big lesson here to just let shit be. Like not forcing situations. Okay, letting doors close when they need to close, and not trying to force a door open that needs to be closed. Because like the Ten of Wands, the Page of Pentacles, it's almost like when cycles come in and then they don't, like then they're gone. Cycles come in and then they close, and it's almost like you're recognizing that, you know, enjoying situations while they last, and then just letting people be who they are and not trying to control the outcome or the results of a situation. Okay. I feel like there's something here that's not going to last, Gemini. It's going to be very short-lived, or it was. And it's like this person is going to try to come back towards you, but it's up to you on what you're going to do about it. Let's get you a money message here. Some of you Geminis would some of you Geminis, if you're considering any sort of like retail or selling of goods, yes, do it. Just do it. That's what I'm getting. You're getting the green light. This card means you have the green light, okay, and go for something here. Avoid giving too much of yourself, Gemini. It says avoid giving too much of yourself while neglecting your own needs. Some of you Geminis, maybe you work in customer service, okay, and maybe you just kind of feel like you're walked all over at your job in general. Maybe you don't work in customer service, okay, but you might feel like you're being used in some way, or like people are walking all over you in some way. I'm going to tell you the same thing I told Aries. Go to my community page. I just shared a video. He has an excellent podcast. Go check it out. It's called Your Days of People Pleasing Are Over. Go watch it. It'll change your life. Okay, I feel like there's some people-pleasing energy coming out in here, Gemini, that is not benefiting you in any sort of way. Okay. Now, people-pleasing can come in many forms, by the way. Caring way too much about other people's opinions of you, you know, that just brings unnecessary anxiety to your life, and it actually can stunt your growth, okay? Maybe you said something. Look, I'll tell you right now, sometimes I say shit, and I'm like, I didn't even mean that. Why did I even say it? And then you're like, it'll like eat at you for like until you die, okay? Caring too much about what other people think of you is going to take all of your energy from you. And so you've got to figure out how to separate yourself from that. Okay? Let people think what they want to think. Anything someone really thinks of you, good or bad, is really a projection of themselves anyway. So it really doesn't matter. You can't make people see your heart. You can't make people see your good intentions, Gemini. You can't make them see anything that they don't see within themselves. And sometimes people just want to find things to not like about you. Trust me, take it from me, I know it. All right, Cancer, let's see. Yes, thank you guys so much for liking the video. Yeah, thank you for subscribing. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. What did I just do here? Thank y'all. Thank y'all. It's been one reoccurring issue that people tell me they get unsubscribed from my channel. Now, I have talked with the support on that. They claim that it's not happening, but I'm not getting into that. The message boards that I read said that if you are not active with the channel for so long, they'll remove you from it. So I don't know. So if that's happening, just check to see if you're subscribed. It's another way interacting with the channel, not just my channel, anyone's channel. But anywho. Let's see, Cancer. What does Cancer need to know? Well, first of all, I see you getting out of your head. You might be in your head about something. I see you getting to calmer waters in general, and any aspect of your life that you feel is a little rocky right now, it's not going to be like this forever. Okay, we all have our turn. Welcome to yours. Yeah, look, Queen of Wands. I see you getting your mojo back. Some of you guys are looking really good in the future. You're going to be feeling really good about yourself. Okay, this Queen of Wands energy is accomplishing a goal too, something that you set your mind to. Some of you guys think you can't do something that you can, is also what I'm getting. Okay, Six of Swords, Eight of Swords. It's your mindset could be holding you back from living in this Queen of Wands energy. I also see you getting your sense of humor back, or like some of you guys may have been feeling a little blah lately. Okay. So that's one message. I hate saying this, but y'all, I have to. Okay. So what I'm about to say is kind of a negative message, but just it's here. You do have someone kind of looking at you all jealous. I don't know who this is. I feel like this person may purposely trap you or may purposely put you in your head. Could be a male or female, doesn't matter. But it's almost like somebody here that may get you into situations that are no good for you. Okay, so just be mindful of that. Say no when you want to say no, okay? The King of Cups. Some of y'all might have a jealous friend or coworker or someone around you that does not have. It's almost like this person wants to. They're the kind of, y'all know the kind of people who, like, when they're doing wrong, they want everyone else to do what they're doing so they feel better about their wrongdoing. It's almost like somebody wants to coerce you, or somebody wants to drag you down to their level here. And you have some sort of sympathy or compassion for this person, or you try to be someone who's very diplomatic in the situation and caring and concerned. Yeah, look, they're going to burden your life if you continue down this path. So those of you that are hanging around people that you know are no good for you, they're dragging you into turmoil. They're dragging you into a place you don't want to be. So for instance, here's an example. Okay, if you're wanting to change your life, or if you're wanting to become a different person, you know, we are, what is that saying, where we are typically like the 5 people we hang around, or something like that. It's almost like you guys have a goal that you want to accomplish, and there's somebody here that is like pulling you back from this goal, and you could be allowing them to do that, because ultimately we allow things to happen. It's like somebody here is holding you back. Who's holding you back, Cancer? Holding you back from accomplishing things that you want to accomplish. Anything else? Take it how it resonates. We got the High Priestess. Pisces energy is here. What's the High Priestess about? Someone's thinking about you that's silent. Okay, you're not speaking to this person. They think a lot about you. It's really all it's giving me. What else about that situation? What else, Spirit? They're trying to ignore it. Okay. There is someone here that you're not on speaking terms with, trying to ignore how they feel, trying to ignore you, but, you know, you are the last person they think about when they go to bed. They're trying to ignore these, like, I'm getting like intrusive thoughts, or like, you know, they try to bury themselves in other things to not think about you so much, but it's like once the day ends, you are on the brain. Sorry if y'all can hear that. I think my neighbor's cutting grass. Yeah. You've had some sort of revelation about this person. You've already received clarity in this situation. They stabbed you in the back. This is someone you're separated. You would classify this as a separation. That's how you know the readings for you. This is how you would see the situation, right? Okay, there has been a lot of deception here. Some of you guys even feel stabbed in the back by this person. They want to talk to you, and it's like they want to, you know, Cancer, it's almost like this person thinks that you guys could work this out. Okay, I don't know how you feel about it, but it's like they think that you guys could work this out. Yeah, look, now they want to come back, but, you know, they hold themselves back from doing that. Or if this is someone that has short communication with you, they're really hiding how they really feel. Okay. They're actually passionate about this, and they want to come in full force, but they try to ignore it. Let's see. What else? Money, work, life-related messages for Cancer, please. Let's see. Look at this. Don't let people hold you back from your goals. And you got to ask yourself, why do you allow that to happen? Okay, don't let the world lead you. Take the steering wheel and take control of your life. Focus. This is also about focus on managing money better. For some of you guys that feel like, you know, you may have been just... Where the hell do I live, y'all? Where do I live? Oh, God. What the hell's going on? Move out to the country for this shit. All right. Anyway. Okay. Sorry, y'all. Okay. Make sure you're writing down your goals as well. That was a motorcycle. All right. Anyway. Okay. It's write down your goals, okay? I feel like if you're someone that has certain things in mind that you want to accomplish, I feel like, you know, in order to make it more real to you, you know, get a journal and start writing this stuff down, okay? Where do you see yourself this time next year? Where do you want to be? Let's start there. It's like, what version of myself do I want to be a year from now? Okay, I want to be this version, okay? Then what you do, what are things that version would be doing right now? Would that version of you be studying? Would that version of you be hitting the gym? Would that version of you be cooking a healthy meal? What would that version of you be doing? And then write that down. Write down all the steps that you believe it would take to become that version. And then you're creating yourself a step-by-step guide to become who you want to be or to accomplish what goal you want to accomplish. And when you write it on paper, it kind of becomes more real. Okay. Watch the spending. Some of you guys, you may be feeling as if you're in financial turmoil right now. Or that's, you may feel like you're headed for that. Okay, now this particular thing that I'm about to tell you is for those of you that might have recently lost a job, or maybe your hours got cut. And give me a card for that. Ooh, do you know this is okay? Look. Okay, 3 of Pentacles. Take this opportunity, take a shitty situation, okay, and make it better, right? Again, how you do that? The same thing. Rewind the video. The same thing I just told you. When negative things happen to us, we have 2 choices. We can either sit there and bask in the negativity and continue to live in this negative energy, or we can pick ourselves up and be like, okay, what can I learn from this? Where do I go from here now? What action can I take to get out of this negative situation? Because this is telling me there's been some sort of loss to make you better, to better a situation, to help you grow. And we don't want to see that when it's happening, right? Not even myself included. How can we see that when we're in a really negative place? This is about trying to be optimistic. I know you don't want to hear it if this is for you. There's some sort of loss that has happened to you, and this is about being optimistic, especially if it's a job loss. Get out and find another damn job. Okay. Or maybe something didn't happen for you the way you wanted it to. Okay. Time for something else. Okay. Maybe a goal of yours isn't working out, or maybe a business idea didn't work out. Maybe you feel like a failure in some. Okay. Redirect it. That's life. That's life. Give me one more. It says, easy does it. Slow and steady wins the race. It's not a good time to rush into anything. It's pay attention to every detail. And be careful not to get involved with quick rich schemes, okay? So whatever that means for you. Some of you guys, we got crafter at the bottom of the deck. Some of you guys have skills of your own that you could put out there in the world and make a living off of it. All right, Leo. This is whatever comes out, so just take what resonates, leave what does not for someone else. And if you can hear the lawnmower, sorry. I guess I could go out there and yell at my neighbor for cutting his grass. What are you doing? I'm in here trying to read tarot. How dare you? How do you think that would go over? You think that'd go over pretty well? Probably not. You might call the cops. Could y'all imagine? Could y'all imagine that in the paper? Crazy lady runs out in her Sailor Moon pajamas. All right. With a deck of cards and a crystal. Okay. Don't judge me, Malachite. All right, let's see. Leo, thank y'all for liking the video. Thank y'all for letting me be me too. I appreciate it. Okay. What about for Leo? Ooh, someone is irritated with you, Leo. I just saw the devil in reverse. I don't, you don't have to care, but man, are they irritated. Okay, 6 of Wands in reverse. 6 of Wands in reverse to me as a reader is like identifying your own success, right? Your version of success may not be everyone else's version of success. This is also asking yourself, why do I want that, right? Some of you guys could be accomplishing things in silence or in private. The 6 of Wands in reverse is also about private achievements. And, I feel like it's really important they're wanting me to tell you, Leo, that it's okay to want what you want, okay? Your idea of success is different from someone else's, okay? And I'm also hearing something about not discrediting yourself, okay? Take that how it resonates. The Hermit. Some of you guys are really protective of your energy, and I like that. Okay, or this is, yeah, 3 of Pentacles in reverse, especially at the workplace. Some of you guys are realizing you work better alone, or maybe you're just one of those lone wolves that like to, you feel like you get shit done quicker by yourself. I'm seeing here about celebrating private achievements. Kind of like you're working on something, okay? And even if other people may know about it a little bit, you're not really celebrating your baby steps and out and open. You've been really dedicated, okay? Or this could be predictive energy. I see you being successful at something. I see you getting a return in your investment, being very proud of yourself here, because you've been very patient with yourself, dedicated. The Hermit card is also about self-observe. Like, I feel like you might be growing in awakening and growing in private. Kind of like having, realizations here. Some of you guys may, what else I'm getting? Now, some of you guys are just starting to be a little quieter about your ascension process. Okay, and I completely understand that, because it's like when we first go through the stages of spiritual awakening, we want to tell everyone about it, and we're so excited, right? And, we want to tell our families, and and then everyone just looks at you like you're a batshit, right? I feel like you're entering this period that you don't need to talk about it anymore, or it's not that you needed to in the first place, you were just excited, but I feel like you're entering this period to where it's like you're going to be an observer of those around you instead of being so loud about it. And I say that in a good way. Like, I feel like you guys were actually wanting to help other people. You were wanting to build them up and help them plant the seeds for their own life so they can become successful too, or so they could see the other side too. So they could have a spiritual awakening too. But it's like you're realizing, there's nothing you could really say. You could actually paint directions and paint a picture and, talk to your blue in the face. But the reality of the situation is we wake up on our own time. There's nothing anyone can do or say to make us wake up or to make us learn certain things. We have to go through the process ourselves. And there might be someone in front of you or around you, and you're just kind of letting them go through that themselves. Now, I am getting another message here. 3 of Swords in reverse. Some of you, this is only going to resonate with a few of you, okay? And this is not the best of messages, but here we go. Some of you may feel stuck in a situation that could be very painful. You feel like you can't release it. It's incredibly hard to be optimistic about whatever this is. Okay, because how could somebody be optimistic about that? Six of Wands in reverse, you might not be telling people about this, or you might be trying to keep this private with the Six of Wands in reverse. Like some of you guys might not want people to find out about whatever this is. Okay, because the Hermit card's here. It's like you're going into hermit mode, contemplating your next course of action, and it's incredibly hard to look at the future here at the Seven of Pentacles. It's like you're really hard. It's Seven of Wands is about seeing something through. Okay. And I feel like I'm talking to a Leo that may be going through something really difficult. What's the outcome? What's the outcome? Take what resonates and how it resonates, guys. Success. Okay, there's some sort of, it could be involving travel of some kind. Okay, I definitely see some sort of travel here for sure. But there's going to be, could be a delay involved as well. But I see a successful outcome to whatever this issue you're facing. Yeah, the Chariot, definitely going to involve some sort of travel. This is another card of success, but becoming a seasoned warrior. Specifically, there's a Leo out there that you're facing some sort of complicated situation. It's time to go into reflection mode, and it's time to, I think there might be something really difficult you're going through that's causing you to wake up. Things do that, right? Difficult situations do that. So you may want to be alone right now, but I do see some sort of clarity and success coming toward you, and you're going to feel a little bit more in control and empowered in the future when in regards to the situation. And the Chariot is a seasoned warrior. This is triumph, okay? I feel like whatever hardship you're going through, the outcome looks pleasant in the long run, okay? It just looks like a difficult situation. Give me one more card. Take it how it resonates. Yeah, look, the Magician. The Magician to me can be a surgeon, okay? Some of you guys, maybe you're getting some type of plastic surgery here, okay? Just, it doesn't have to be plastic surgery, but I don't like getting into health stuff, okay? Maybe you're traveling to see a surgeon of some kind, or you're traveling to see someone that has more resources here, okay? Because this could be you trying to check out all of your options that you have, okay? I see you finding a good option here. And the Magician is all about taking inspired action. You have a lot of resources here, okay? I'm not quite sure what's going on. Three of Swords in reverse again. Some of you guys may have surgeries coming up, but this is don't be alarmed. This is something you would already know about or already see that is feasible for you to happen. You're going to get what you want. Let's just say that. Okay, you're going to get what you want, all right, in this situation. Like, you're going to see the results that you want to see. Okay, I just feel like it does not, it's a little scary, okay? Like, as anybody, you know, anyone would be scared in this situation. Maybe you guys are, you know, you're getting dental surgery. I was going to say maybe you're getting like a root canal or something. I don't know. Okay. You're definitely going through some sort of spiritual. Okay. Some of you guys, this is a spiritual awakening through and through. And it's your classic, you've lost a part, or you've lost this old version of yourself, or you feel like you've lost something. You feel spiritually drained and bankrupt here.